I like when I start my videos with bloopers because... So, at the end of last year, I experienced some sort of a burnout. I was trying to do too many things at the same time that started affecting my health, but more so, I just couldn't keep up with my filming schedule, and because of that, I fell way behind with my wrap-ups, TBRs, and book hauls, and this is something that I would like to try and fix today, at least one of those problems. So today, I will be talking about all the books that I read at the end of 2018, roughly from September to December. I did not read a lot, and I will be talking only about my favorites or the ones that I hated the most. So let's get on with it. So the first book that I read in September was actually a book for a blog tour that I signed up for, and that was The Keeper of the Bees by Meg Cassell, and that book was sent to me by Entangled Teen as an e-arc, for which I'm very grateful, but unfortunately I did not like the book. I had a lot of problems with that. I'm gonna link my review down below because I do have a review on my blog, but I gave this book 2.5 stars. Even though the concept was interesting, it was some sort of like a sequel or more like a companion novel to the book that I read a year ago. My biggest issue with a sequel, or rather a companion book, was the way the mental illness was portrayed and the way it was used as some sort of like a plot device. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of situations in which authors can choose to include mental illness or have some of the characters portray certain mental illness characteristics. However, what was my biggest pet peeve was that the illness and everything, like it was that illness was not really given a name in the book, and that is YA paranormal, so that you understand. So that illness that the main protagonist was experiencing, all the symptoms, all the everything that was happening to her was being referred to as a curse, and that was what I just couldn't, you know? Because of that, and because some of the writing was just not very good, I gave the book 2.5 stars. I also was somewhat slammed for doing this for a blog tour, but I'm honest. I think that was the book with the lowest rating that I gave within those months, and thankfully my next read was amazing because I read this book, and that is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. So this is a middle grade novel, first one in a duology, and the second book actually just came out, and I already have it, but I have not read it. This is a story about a main character named Prosper, and he has a demon living inside of him, and he just discovers it, and then turns out that certain family members want him dead because apparently this demon has some big problem with his family, and he's extremely dangerous. So he goes on a run, and then he meets with some other characters, and there's just a lot of shenanigans that are happen, and the story is set during Halloween. So it is a perfect October read, and I did read it in September, so it was kind of close to October, and it was a very fun read. I really enjoyed it. I had some problems with the voice of the demon itself for some reason. I don't know why, because I'll be honest, I picked up this book because there's a fox on the cover, and I mean, Alexandra Bracken is very good friends with Susan Dennard, and I love Susan Dennard, so obviously I had to pick up one of the books by her friends. It was almost a cover buy for me, but I did enjoy the book. I think the writing is great, especially when it comes to depictions of nature and how it reflects the mood of the characters. That is great, but like I said, for some reason, the voice of Alistair did not really click with me. No idea why. I'm hoping that probably in the second book that will be resolved, because by the end of the book I was starting to get kind of more attuned to him, so to say. And yeah, also since it's a middle grade novel, there's obviously not that much violence in it. However, there are gross things, and I equate gross things to violence. I mean, I don't like gross things, and it just... I have trouble reading about gross things as much as I sometimes have trouble reading about violence, so here you go. Overall, I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I cannot wait to read the sequel. Next book that I read was Cans by Raziel Reed, and unfortunately I don't have my copy on hands right now because I lended it to a friend, and that book was trippy AF. So first of all, let me mention that it was sent to me for review from Penguin Random House Canada, for which I'm very grateful. I really enjoy the book. If you look at the ratings on Goodreads, this book has an incredibly low rating, and I think it's because it is largely misunderstood. Why I say this book is very trippy is because when you read it, from the very first page, which actually starts with glossary that I need to read because otherwise you will not understand what hunty means. Just saying. From the very first page, you are submerged in the culture of drag queens, of gayness and queerness and all of that, but it's just very trippy because it is overboard. It is very exaggerated. It is a very Big Brother, you know, kind of like TV show. Gosh, I don't even know what to compare this book to. I think the closest comparison would be to Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, but I did not know what I was going for when I picked up Beauty Queens, and I did not like it, and I gave it 3 stars, which was a very low rating for me back then in a day, but Cans was just fantastic. There is a murder mystery somewhere underneath all of that and kind of a weird plot going on, but it's also about popularity. So this is set in high school, and we have a school in which there are 3 boys by the name Ken, as in Barbie and Ken, that are extremely popular, and they basically run the school. They're kind of like a gay, mean boys, I don't know, something like this. So imagine Mean Girls but only as gay boys. That's what it is, and it is just so good. It is, like I said, it's trippy AF because when you read it you go like, oh my god, how's this even happening? This is just not humanly or physically possible. The author makes fun out of everything. You know, that Mean Girls stereotype, like I said, high school popularity, beauty pageants, plastic surgeries. Oh god, there is just so much meta in that book. However, it is very hard to understand. It is being marketed, I think, as a YA. However, I think it should be aimed at an adult reader. I don't think this book is very suitable for teenagers. Quite on the contrary, there is blood, there is murder, there is violence, there are jokes about rape and all of that, so it's definitely not suitable for a minor audience, and it can be quite triggering if you're not aware what you're going for. But it is incredible. I love this book. I also have a review of it on my blog. We'll provide the link down below, maybe a little bit more coherent thoughts in there, but I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. It definitely deserves way more attention than it's getting, and don't read whatever it says on Goodreads because this author actually received quite a few awards for his debut novel, so I'm pretty sure it's whatever is on Goodreads, it just does not reflect the worth of this book correctly. Then I listened to an audiobook which was also middle grade, and that was The Magic Misfits by Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, he's an actor, and yes, he wrote a book, a children's book, and he narrated it himself. Since he is an amazing actor and also a musician, a singer, he did an amazing job with this audiobook. I loved it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Performance is incredible. This is a story about literally what it is, a group of kids, misfits, that come together because of their love of magic and magic tricks and circus, and they get involved in some crazy stuff. So it's a very sweet story. It's short, it has a lot of representation, obviously. I love that story, it's incredibly sweet. I have a review on my blog once again because back then I was still doing reviews on my blog and I was very consistent with that, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very cute and funny story, a great listen. It's a short audiobook and I do recommend it as an audiobook. I had one problem with it though. There are parts of the book that are aimed directly at the reader, and in a way they break the fourth wall, which I did not like, but that is like a minor thing. It probably will be more entertaining for younger readers than someone my age, but it was fun. I loved it, cannot wait for a second book, so 4.5 stars. Continuing the topic of middle grade and children's books, I read the book that was sent to me by the publisher, by Penguin Random House Teen, or Penguin Teen, and that is The Golden Glow by Benjamin Flo. I think I reviewed this book as well on my blog. This is a children's book, and this is a story about the fox. That's why they sent it to me. It has obviously a little text and very big illustrations. It is a story about Mr. Fox who decides to go on a walk into the mountains, and he packs his stuff. As you can see, he even has a raincoat. And he goes there, and what the best part about this book is that it names different plants and trees. For example, like on this page, and to be honest, I didn't even know some of them myself, which is very cool. And then he finds what he's looking for, and he was looking for a specific flower, which is called the Golden Glow. And I love this book. I give it 5 stars. I had no complaints. It is wonderful, it is soothing, it's suitable for children, and it has foxes. So obviously I had to give it 5 stars. Next, I read Small Spaces by Catherine Arden, and you probably know her as a high fantasy writer who wrote the trilogy that started with a book called The Bear and the Nightingale, and I think her 3rd book just recently came out, and she's quite well known for that. However, this is her new book that came out in October of last year. This was her debut in a middle grade genre. This is a middle grade story. It is paranormal, and it's absolutely lovely. It's perfect for Halloween, and I actually got to meet Catherine, and she signed a book for me. And she said, avoid large places at night, which makes sense only if you read the book. Actually, it says September. Great, my memory is amazing. So this is a story about the girl who kind of suffers after her mom passing away, and she is trying to both reconnect with her father, but also she suddenly notices that something weird is happening. Children start going missing, and then once she is on a school bus with a whole bunch of other kids, her classmates, and then the bus breaks, and then something weird happens. This is an incredibly creepy book for a middle grade. I could not put it down. I was reading it, and I remember reading it quite late into the night, and somewhere at like 10 p.m. And there was a scene in the forest when the main characters were going through the forest and how everything was creaking, and then there's that figure that appears. And honestly, I was kind of lying facing my wall, and then I heard something in my apartment and I freaked out. It was so creepy. I love this book. I gave it a 4.5, even 5 stars. I could not find any faults with it. And I want to say there is a reference to one of the Susan Cooper's books in her series, The Darkest Rising, and since I was very lucky to meet Catherine at her book signing in one of the smaller bookstores in Toronto, I told her that I noticed that reference, and she said, "Oh wow, you're the first one who noticed it." And I was like, man, this is like the second time it happens in my life when an author praises me for noticing something that nobody else has noticed. But I think it's just because very few people by that moment read the book, since I think I got, like, obviously I got it from the Penguin Random House for review, forgot to mention that, and I got it early before the release date. That's why I was able to read it and review, and there's some water damage here because I read it in the bath and I dropped it. True story. Well, actually not dropped it, but kind of submerged the last few pages, so they're slightly wrinkled, but otherwise they're okay. But I do have some of my favorite pictures on Instagram with this book, so here's that. Definitely highly recommend. I think it will be a fun read for an adult as well, but for children, for sure, definitely recommend. Next, I read another book, which was also for review, and this time it was for Playwrights Canada Press, who very kindly sent me a play, Gertrude and Alice, by Anna Chatterton and Evelyn Perry, and I was also invited to watch this play at the Buddies in Bad Times Theatre in Toronto, and I really enjoyed this play. I think I watched the play before I read it, because I heard some people say how they were somewhat distracted by the knowledge of the text before they watched the play. Anyway, that was my reasoning. So I watched the play, then read the script. It was very interesting. I think I enjoyed watching it way more than I enjoyed reading it. That's why I gave the script only 4 stars. It is quite visually interesting when you watch it at the theater. This is a story about 2 women who lived together. It is their love story, but at the same time, it also a conversation about great women and how women were not taken seriously by men in the philosophy circles, in the literature circles. So we have a story. This is a story about Gertrude Stein and her lover Alice. I always forget her last name, Alice Toklas, and how they went through 2 world wars and how they survived everything and how they lived in Paris. It is both heartwarming and sad, and it's also incredibly funny. There are some direct quotes from Gertrude Stein in this script. I don't know why I keep pronouncing Stein. I know it is correct, but still, Stein. And it was just perfect. There were also some lines and some poetry and some writing that was made to depict Gertrude Stein's style, and it was just wonderful. And in the play itself, 2 of the writers of the script actually portray Gertrude and Alice, and that was fantastic. I loved it. I think I still have, my ticket here tucked inside, and I do have a program from this play, but we were also given this little things, which is like a cahier with different major dates that pertained to their lives, as well as some scribbles and their handwriting and some pictures and some letters. It was quite interesting, but like I said, I give it 4 stars. I found that considering the subject matter, I found it more engaging to watch it on stage as opposed to read it. But yeah, I'm still very grateful to Playwrights Canada Press for providing me with a copy, and I cannot wait to read more plays by them because I have quite a few on my shelves and I need to get to them. Then, because I was getting ready to read my course at university, I had to read 2 books for that, and one of them was The Otis Job Club. I don't have the name of the author written down, but I'll provide it down below. I gave it only 3 stars. It's a non-fiction book. It's just one of the professional books that I was reading. And another one was What Color is Your Parachute? And that is about the resume writing. So this is something pertaining to my work. I mean, I don't know how to rate non-fiction books. I basically rated them based on the amount of new information that I received. That's why I gave both books 3 stars. They were mildly entertaining, they were short, but I did not get something completely new for myself. But still, I just thought it would be worth to mention them. And then once I got back from a trip, which was both work and pleasure, I realized that I was so brain dead that I just could read manga and graphic novels, and I couldn't even look at bigger books. So one of the things that I read was I continued reading Fence by C.S. Paquette, and that is a graphic novel series. This is volume number 2, which actually came up as a binder, I think, in January, but I read all the issues that are in volume 2 and also volume 3 on Hoopla because they've been released as individual issues online on Kindle and ebook format, but not in print. In print, you only can get them as volumes. So volume number 3 is coming out later in this year. I want to say somewhere around summer. I'm not sure. I have it pre-ordered, but obviously I have not received it yet. So I'm going to just show you volume number 2. This is just the continuation of the story about the boys from the all boys fencing school and how they prepare for a big tournament and how they compete against each other to be selected to be on the team, and that team will go to the championship. And this is just a lovely, cozy story. I cannot find any fault with it. It is extremely diverse. The illustrations are beautiful. Art is great. Story is engaging. A lot of fun stuff. I laughed a lot while I was reading it, and I just love it. I just want this to never end, you know? And yeah. So 5 stars. I gave 5 stars to both volumes. I have them marked as read on Goodreads, but like I said, I only have a physical copy of the volume 2. So I kind of caught a manga bug and started reading more manga. One, I got Watakoi by Fujitsu, I believe. That is volume number 1. The Love is Hard for Otaku. I got that volume from the library and I read it almost in one sitting. It's such a fun manga. It is about 2 couples that work together in the same workplace, and they're all otakus. And otaku is a Japanese term to describe people who are overly obsessed by something. Usually it is manga, anime, or games. And this, I think in Japan, it does not have very bad connotation, but people still prefer not to talk about it because they might be a bit embarrassed, since it's usually something that I guess teenagers or kids do, but even grown-ups can be otakus, and this is actually the case for this story. We have 2 young couples that get together throughout the story, and how they discover that they are all into different types of obsessions or fandoms. And it is, you know, it's such a cute and funny story. I really enjoyed it. I read volume number 1. It was just so much fun. I gave it 4 stars. Some parts of the story were more funny than others. Some parts were not as funny to me personally because I'm not a gamer. I can relate on the level of fandom, for example, of TV show or a book or a movie, or I used to be very much into K-pop, so I can understand the level of obsession for certain singers or bands, but when it comes to games, I don't really get it. However, this manga has a lot of little explanations, like footnotes at the bottom of each page, which is quite funny. And also the manga has translation notes, which is great because there are certain things which are quite difficult to explain to a Westerner about Japanese culture, and I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend, if you consider yourself to be a fan of anything, you will love this manga. Since I'm a huge fan of BL manga, which is also what one of the characters in Watakoi is into, so I feel you, and I read this manga, which is Jackass. It says volume number 1 on Goodreads. However, I could not find any information about whether there's gonna be a sequel or not, and I'm kind of sad about it because I really enjoyed it. It does say here, parental advisory, explicit content. Yes, there is some explicit content there, but even though this is a boys love manga, it is probably one of the very few mangas in which the relationship is not belittling or abusive or very imbalanced. It is incredible. I mean, it's a huge step for BL manga because it is full of certain tropes. Tropes that I can talk about for hours and hours and still barely scratch the surface. They all come from the fact that Japanese and Western cultures are very different, and our views on the balance in the relationships between, it doesn't really matter man and woman or man and man, it's very different. We look at the things slightly differently, and because of that, whenever there is something in manga that does not really agree with me, and I occasionally read that manga even on, you know, Overdrive or somewhere else online, I find that there is a lot of manga which is done for the sake of, you know, fans, and it's not really in any way accurate when it comes to LGBT or queer community or queer relationships, and in fact it can be even more damaging for that community. However, this manga took me by surprise because even though it has kink, even though it has sex, even though it has boys and boys relationship, it is still way more positive than some of the mangas that I read before. So yeah, if you're into this thing, definitely recommend. As you can see, I have my own copy. That's the sign that I liked it. Yes, I gave it 5 stars, and you can fight me on this, but I loved it. Next, I went to Hoopla and decided to pick up a couple of issues of the Backstagers. I read them some time ago, but I read them up to, I think, issue number 7, and I decided to go back and first of all continue and read the ending of the story. That was issue number 8, and I also read 2 specials. One was for St. Valentine's Day, so February of 2018. Another one was a Halloween special, so for October 2018, and I caught up with the series. I gave each volume 4 stars. Great story, very cute story, very cute art. It is a story about boys in a school who work as backstagers at their school theater, and how their backstage is not just a backstage, but it's an actual literal door or portal to some other world. It is magical, it is funny, it is quirky, it is sometimes kind of weird, but I really enjoyed it. So if you have access to Overdrive or Hoopla, highly recommend. It's a fun read. It's a very short because I was reading just issues, so that's it. Then I read some manga on, I think, Manga Rock, and I did not like it. I didn't even write it down. I just wrote down one title and that was it. And I also read another ebook, which was kind of okay. However, I want to mention the last but not least one graphic novel, or rather a children's book, children's picture book. I keep calling them graphic novels, and no, they're not. It is called Interstellar Cinderella, and this is an absolutely adorable reimagining of a Cinderella story in which Cinderella wants to be a mechanic and everything happens in space. So at some point she actually saves the prince and his spaceship, and it was so wonderful, and the ending was so wonderful. I gave it 5 stars. It's just a cute story, obviously children's book, very short, adorable art. And I think we need more stories like this. We need the stories in which children can see that girls can be mechanics, and then not necessarily at the very end a princess has to go and marry the prince. That was a very adorable story. I enjoyed it a lot. I highly recommend it for everyone. If you have children of appropriate age, or even if you don't, just read it yourself. You might have a lot of fun with it. I certainly did, and I got it from Overdrive, so it's available at the library. So yeah, 4 stars, or maybe like 4.5. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's enough for today. I'm thinking about making my January wrap-up together with my February wrap-up because I did not read a lot in February. As a matter of fact, I so far read only 1 book, or rather I finished only 1 book and 1 manga, and I also read just a couple of books in January, so I might merge them together. We'll see. If I have a lot of time, I might film it separately. I don't know, but I'm very happy to be back and making these videos again, because making wrap-ups and rambling about books is one of my favorite things. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned, if you would like to hear more middle grade recommendations, or maybe you can give me some of your recommendations when it comes to middle grade books. I would really appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you very soon. Bye! I also have a bread maker on, which is going to go off any second now, and it's giving me jitters because I want it to be off so I can film. And I think there is a helicopter coming. Why does it have to happen all at the same time when I sit down to film? I actually did not plan to film today. Well, I had a plan to film, but when I woke up in the morning, and that is my bread maker. As I knew it would. Why do I always look so pale? I'm not as pale in real life. Moving on. Why I cannot pronounce her name. Oh gosh, I hope I'm not getting sick. I cannot get sick. I don't know why I said that. Did I have something in my hair?